Hi, everybody, and welcome to my webinar. Thank you ever so much all for joining. We might get a few more along the way, but without further ado, I'm going to begin. So today's topic of this particular webinar is measuring agency key performance indicators, otherwise known as KPIs. So just before I get started, I'd like to start by introducing myself. My name is Frankie Glaister, and the company that I work for is the Agency Works. We are the implementation partner of a project management system called Synergist, which some of you may have heard of, some of you may also use. Or be looking to use. Not only do we sell and implement a project management system, but the agencies that we work with, we also work very closely alongside them, looking at their business processes. So, looking at how they can get these key performance indicators not only out of the system, but just in general, is a really key importance. And that's one of the reasons that we work with the agencies with this particular topic. So, today's topics that we will be looking into are client and job profitability, hours sold, billing forecasts, and staff utilization. Now, the reason that I'm focusing on these four particular areas, we could look at a number of different key performance indicators in which agencies are hoping to gain visibility on. To be honest, the real question, which for each agency would be, why exactly do you want to look at these key performance indicators? Which areas, why do you want to have access to them? What do you want to achieve? What's your end goal? So the reason that I'm looking into these four, is purely because they all interlink very, very well with one another, which you'll see as I start going through. Now, I'm actually going to be showing you some working examples of these particular KPIs, which hopefully you find nice and useful. Excuse me. So whether you're using spreadsheets, a number of different tools, another project management system, Synergist itself, hopefully you'll be able to, get a good impression of what KPIs in terms of these you should be accessing, and also how to access them and why they are so important. So like I said, I'm going to be switching to and from the system that I'm using today, Synergist, to show some of these KPIs. So the first one that I would like to concentrate on is the hours sold. So like I said, this is just an example of a typical sales dashboard that you can access within Synergist. Whether you are using spreadsheets at all, it doesn't really matter. It's all got the same logic. So the first one that I want to focus on is the hours sold. Now, the first thing to do with this KPI and how to access this KPI is actually to work out the availability against the hours sold. So, how many chargeable hours do you have to sell within the agency? That is step one. And I've actually got a working example. Okay, so this is an example of how agencies may calculate the hours they need to sell to achieve the revenue, that may be the end goal, that they could be achieving based on, as you can see in the spreadsheet, sorry, we've got that based on the resource, the utilization, and the charge rates. Now, obviously, each agency will have this calculated slightly differently, but just to kind of give an example, it may be that from a designer, you can get more chargeable hours out than with a director, which you can see on this example. Okay, so that should give you a nice calculation of the hours that you have available. That will then hopefully allow you to access that KPI, which is looking at the hours available against the hours sold. So jumping back to our example here. Another reason why this is so important to keep track of is if, for example, you were looking at it on a weekly, or let's go with a monthly basis, just for these purposes, what you can do is you can actually look at your pipeline statuses as well. So another key performance indicator, although it's more like a forecasting key performance indicator, having something like this top left-hand side chart that we can see, so our pipeline status, will enable us to look at the hours sold and say, right, in this month, we may not have sold all of the hours that we have available. Therefore, let's have a look what we've got in the pipeline. Now, having statuses against this pipeline report, so excuse the terminology, in this example, I've got initial communication, first discussion, as you can see here, etc. By keeping track of these, we can hover over and we could see the quoted amount as well. But you'd be able to look and say, okay, so we've actually got a number of jobs at quote stage what we've got verbal commitment for. Now, in this particular month, we haven't sold enough hours. Therefore, you can look at that. You can dig deeper. And you can figure out, right, let's try and get those pushed through. Let's ensure that we are selling enough hours. Now, another key performance indicator to help the getting the visibility on the hours sold and to help ensure that you are selling enough hours from what you have available is setting targets. So the one bottom left hand side that I've just got my mouse on now, this is another good indicator. So having targets, whether you have that set on a team as a whole, or whether you have that set as an individual basis, or it may be that you actually have that set on a client basis. So it may be that you have some retained clients. It may be that you have some prospects. If you set a target about the revenue in which you would like to receive from them, you can possibly allocate that to the handler of each of those clients, or just have it as a whole. But having some sort of target in place will allow it will allow those resource to become obviously motivated. It's a nice incentive as well, but also it will enable you to make sure that you are getting those ones that are in verbal commitment all the way through that pipeline stage 2 verbal commitment, and ensuring that they're dropping into that hours sold there. Okay. Now, moving on from the kind of the pipeline side of things, I'd like to just kind of again explain why those getting the hours sold through the business against what's available is really, really important. And it kind of moves me on to the next key performance indicator, which is ensuring that they are sold. So your resource in which are carrying out those hours can hit their utilization target, which again, like I said, brings me on to my next area, which is a management dashboard. Now, let's start then at this utilization dashboard here. So if those hours are being sold, you can ensure that you are achieving those utilization targets that were set. If you remember, we looked at that spreadsheet and it had, okay, so we want a designer to be 75% utilized, director may only be 10% utilized. So ensuring that you've got that performance indicator, you've got easy access to it, is so key. And again, you might want to analyze this, so utilization rates on an individual basis. You might want to analyze it on a team basis as well. You may also want to analyze it based on different resource levels as well. So just as an example, if somebody's worked 40 hours in the week and 30 of those are chargeable, a simple calculation such as 30 divided by 40 times that by 100, that then gives you the utilization rate. Now, if you're keeping track of that, so if you have access to that key performance indicator, it will enable you to do something about it if they aren't hitting that utilization rate. Now, there may be circumstances in which they aren't, okay, but evidently it will allow you to analyze by resource, by team, by company as a whole, spot patterns, so indicate that something does need analyzing, and that could be that actually we could probably get that designer even more utilized. However, they are doing a particular task which is non-chargeable, which is why their utilization rate could be dropping. Okay. Now, on the same lines, also tracking actuals on the value coming into the business against the target that you can keep track of by having this other KPI that we can see on the top left hand side. So going back to that kind of end goal, why do you want those KPIs? It could be to increase your revenue. So again, having a key performance indicator such as this, so ensuring that you've got nice access to even if it's a chart or, like I said, in Excel on a tool, but keeping track of your gross profit and your turnover will ensure that you are on track with those utilization rates. Okay. And another key KPI for organizational purposes and forecasting purposes is a KPI billing plan, which we can see just next to that on the right hand side. So if a billing plan is put onto each individual job to see what you plan to do, what you'd be able to do is you'd then be able to look and see if you have met that target on a monthly basis. Okay, so it may be that you've got a target revenue. Well, in that case, we need to ensure that the staff are this percentage utilized. Obviously, it's going to be different with different staff members. And then we need to ensure that we are planning to bill this amount and we actually are billing that amount as well. Okay. Moving on to another, again, really, really nice key performance indicator, and it's one that doesn't always get tracked, but it is a really, really useful one to have, is top clients. So this pie chart that we can see here where my mouse is. So our clients that we work with, the agencies that we work with, aim to have that nice and evenly balanced, ensuring that not all of their eggs are in one basket. That just minimizes the risk if anything were to change with any of those clients. So again, a really good key performance indicator to have on hand. And these key performance indicators, which I'm going through, so the hours sold against the hours available, the staff utilization rates, the billing plans that you have in place, also your financial summary, so looking at the revenue, and like we can see here, looking at the top clients, monitoring these on a monthly basis will ensure that everything is on track. And what it'll also do is if you're not on track with anything, say the utilization rates as an example, it will enable you to say, okay, this is why that one of our staff utilization rates has dropped considerably, or it may have increased considerably. This is why it's having an effect on that target. Okay, so that revenue that we want to get into the business. It just gives you so much more visibility having these simple plans together. Okay, so jumping back over to here, let's have a look at some top tips surrounding all of the areas in which I've just said. So it's good enough having those reports and showing you, but now let's talk about, okay, so what are the tips? So why should we be getting those? And also, how do we get those? So ensuring that time is recorded will enable you to analyze performance on utilization, and that will enable you to analyze performance on revenue as well. Okay, so you'll be able to pick up patterns such as, could we actually increase that person's utilization because we are selling more than we have available, and they could cut down on some of the non-chargeable tasks. Okay, so that's another one. A little tip that's actually not on the screen but it's in there, is we always encourage our agencies that we work with to sell more than is available, because in the reality of things, the clients do move the goalposts. Okay, so it may look, if we're looking at our forecasting, it may look like, brilliant, we've sold all of the hours in this month, or we've sold kind of 99% of them. But if one of those clients moves one of those jobs, that means that we've dropped again. If we drop those hours that we've sold, that means the staff utilization is going to have an effect. That then means that the revenue coming into the business is also going to have an effect. So ensuring that we're trying to sell just slightly more than we have available is a nice thing to aim for. So also keeping track of those hours that are being sold. So trying to achieve selling more you have available, like I just said, that reduces the risk of not having enough work to keep them utilized. Okay, just to summarize, tracking your setting utilization rates is obviously key with everything that I've just said, and then tracking a new business forecast as well. So if you can get more hours sold by seeing the status of the jobs at quote stage. So it's all well and good me saying, oh, try and sell more hours than you have available, but it may be that you need that visibility on, okay, so where are we going to get those hours from? Okay, and if you're tracking things like that pipeline stage in which we looked at before, that will enable you to see, right, we've got this many that we could probably push through next month rather than the month after, because one of our clients has moved the goalposts to the next month. So it just gives you, again, that overall visibility, and it allows you not only to see it, but also to action it. Okay, and then finally, accuracy of data. So having accurate data is so key, and also, if you do have it all in one place, this is a really good thing to help reduce error. So having everything all in one place. So if you're doing your estimating all in one system, and then you're scheduling from that from those estimated hours, and then from those estimated hours, the guys are being allocated the hours. They're then recording, having a nice visibility on what's required of them. That will then allow you to report on the KPIs. It will be basically accurate actuals, so actual KPIs coming out of the system. They'll be nice and accurate as well because you've got it all in one system. There's no duplication. If you can follow that process, even through Excel, if you're using Excel, just keeping it nice and accurate will help out massively. Okay, especially in busy periods. So, just to quickly summarize the benefits of what we've been through, I'm sure they're pretty self-explanatory anyway. Like I said right at the beginning, the kind of first thing is, what do you want them for? So it's all well and good keeping track of them, but then also doing something about them is just as important. And looking at the KPIs based on kind of, what you want. So if you want to increase profitability, okay, so where can we increase utilization on resource to sell more? Or where can we be selling more hours? And by tracking these and actioning them, it will allow you to meet overall goals, and it will, dependent again on exactly what you want these key performance indicators for, it will enable you to do things such as increase profitability, allow visibility on patterns, increase utilization, and also having things like targets in place, having a utilization rate in place, and having the new business team having that forecast and having that pipeline so they can say, yes, we've got these, let's try and push them through, maybe log activities against them, will also increase motivation and organization within the business. Okay, so unfortunately, we're out of time. I think I have run slightly over, so I do apologise to anybody. If you would like any more information on the examples shown in today's webinar, then please do contact me. If you have any feedback, whether it's good or bad, I'd really appreciate that. So feel free to contact me, and I hope to hear from you all soon. Thanks ever so much for joining.